It's Monday, May 18th, and our sports news from Sam. First, our sponsor is Lehman Brothers, our sports news from Sam, and I want to cover it now. Merchandise. You can go to Hot Topic. Their website has things you can buy. Most notably, if you look at the front page, you can see a pair of shorts with the words Fallout Boy on the back, and I'd like you to just imagine one of your most obese friends wearing those. I think it would be a great fit for them. Sports news from Sam. We've got NBA conference finals are set. He thinks it'll be a good series, and he's got the Thunder and the Knicks as his picks to advance. He still thinks quarterback is the most important position in America for any job. However, he thinks each team, their quarterback is the most important. Pittsburgh not having a plan for their quarterback is insanity. The CSU Rams with Mountain West Men's Track and Field Championship. Good for them as they move to the Pac-12. Sports News Sam had a question that I want to cover, and that is on Fallout, and he is watching season 2 of Fallout Vaults. So I think there are 130-ish vaults numbered. So we don't know if all of them were actually used as numbers, but we know that there were roughly that many numbered. I want to cover a couple of the crazier and concerning and just insane, I don't know the best words to use. A lone person with only puppets around. There was a vault with that. There was a plant vault, like a botany vault, where spores got released and all the people turned into a plant-human hybrid. There was one focused on raising children as soldiers. There was one stashing drugs, hardcore kind of drugs for addicting people inside the vault. The idea, could a society overcome hardcore addiction if everybody became addicted? And you can kind of guess on what happened there. So a society of heavily drug-addicted people occasionally finding stashes of drugs, and I assume that would lead to a lot of turning on each other. And I don't know the end of that story, but that's one. There is a vault where the door didn't close, and then the creepiest, this is terrible one, once a year a dweller had to be sacrificed. So I've mentioned it a number of times. I never came out. I mean, our merch and our sponsors are definitely people who are not going to be making anybody money, really. YouTube content and its sanitization. There's been a couple topics. What happened to me was I got a notification from YouTube saying, hey, this content has been flagged and monetization or something. I didn't really read the whole note, but I was like, okay, we got to look into why this is happening. I haven't really talked about anything with I think, hard opinion on it. Maybe to some extent just saying, hey, this is bad. However, I don't think it's one side of an aisle that thinks this is bad. I don't think it's one group. There are a lot of words that will get flagged on this platform. And that's what I started to learn from that piece. So what happens if it gets flagged? So you get punished. The way you get punished is different, and it also depends on what you're out to get from the platform. So if you're looking to earn money, your punishment of a video demonetized or just plain removed is a problem, especially if you're someone who put a lot of effort. One of the stories I was reading about was someone who put in 30 minutes of a video, which when you're doing well, you can expect that for about every minute of a video, you have 2 minutes of editing or research. So I would imagine that they put easily 3-4 hours, probably more, into working on this video, which was pulled down. The topics inside of it, the hard part is how do you talk about these things without hitting those specific words? And it kind of becomes this, what happens is there's become this word called algo speak, where when you hear people use MAGA and the current administration rather than naming someone or the previous administration or maybe even like Democrats in the 90s, there's list names that you're going to be at a high likelihood of having some sort of punitive damage or sanction. Those are words that are hopefully somewhat allowable. The words go back and forth often. There was a spreadsheet I found that was looking at a lot of them, and there's asterisks for every time that the allowability is not probably a real word, that it changed. There was one that I found interesting. I was talking to my wife about this, and it was about, there's a lot that are about health that have been removed over time or changed or back and forth. And one of them was about, what you eat and around kind of like health concerns about that, because the platform became something that kind of tried to help people do those things that you would do to, your digestion and disorders. That is a word that is checked for, and again, sanitized. When I started looking into this, there is a channel that they said, hey, wait, I need to use the T word. And there's an important date for a lot of millennials where it happened. It was one of those things that was drastically on the news. Those 3 numbers are one of those ones that are sanitized. So I'm trying to say them without actually saying them. When you hear someone say unalive, that's one. Again, MAGA instead of naming someone. Those are just insane to me that it's gotten that far. So I'll go speak, and I wanted to reference, there's 3 authors. Huxley, I think, is the one that I not remember George Orwell, and then Ray Bradbury. So if you're not aware of the books that I'm talking about, referencing those in general, if you go look for those books and look for videos on them, all of them are over 5 years old, and they're pretty much only summaries of the book that you could go use to write a book report or learn about it or cover it quickly. They're not using them as a launching point for talking about something. And the videos that do, 1, I can't find a lot, and 2, any that I can find have less views than this channel has bots, which is something maybe we'll cover bots in a little bit, because I've found that to be super interesting with this learning about the platform. So that book one of the books had a topic called newspeak. So I would encourage you to look at that. There's a bunch of R words that have gone back and forth. There's a story that I wanted to talk about one day, or came to mind while I was looking at this. One time I got my ballot rejected, and it's a good reason. It's what you would want to see. Talking about that story would probably get it so that one of the damages is you don't show up in people's feed, right? So you have to go look for by channel name. And so even referencing those channels within this, I was curious to myself, why aren't there other channels that just recommend, here, I would go watch this. And it's because referencing some of those channels also gets it so that you're unlikely to be seen. I don't think you have to dig too far to find channels that try to circumvent these guidelines. I stuck a little circumvent go around joke, and it's a joke from Arrested Development, which is a TV show name that would probably hit alarm bells. And particularly that first word is bad, talking about that, or it's crazy to me to look at these words and try and speak around them. And let's see, again, a number of channels I've mentioned are probably on that list of bad. Metaball Studio. So I called it metal instead of meta. And I'd just like to point that out, that it was meta, because if you used the word like iron and then instead of meta, then, the next word would be balls or, big or whatever, that will probably get you some sanitization. Let's see, we covered merch, and if you comment or thoughts on this video, you can write a letter to Santa Claus with any comments. And if you enjoy pressing like buttons, go to Facebook, find someone's weird post from like an uncle, and put in a interesting ... or an angry face on that post. And you'll find that post is not so much sanitized, which is an interesting thing. And what I would suggest, and I'm not promoting this for my channel, but if you find something where you think it is unlikely to get sanitized or demonetized or taken away, which are all the words that I can't say really, then I would suggest you like and subscribe and comment on those, because that does help those go up to the top and actually get seen, which was a surprise for me to learn. However, you are actually doing some sort of social justice by doing those things, and a like literally costs you nothing but poking something.